Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Global Women Peace Foundation event, Teachers FGMC Training Webinar. I'm so excited to have you all here today. Thank you for joining us. My name is Anna Maraldi. I am a graduate student at GWU and a current intern at Global Women Peace Foundation, and I will be your moderator today. Just to give you all a brief overview of how the webinar will go, we'll be hearing from several speakers, including Angela Peabody, F.A. Cole, and Dr. Willisha Gill, who each have their own unique experiences and expertise on the topic of female genital mutilation and cutting. As a note, I will be referring to female genital mutilation and cutting as FGMC. Other speakers may refer to it as FGM or FGC as well. So before we hear from our speakers, I would like to open with a few questions for everyone to see how much understanding of FGMC everyone is coming in with. We are going to display a poll here that y'all can respond to. Okay. Anyone that's just joining us, we just have a quick poll up for you guys to respond to. We'll close it up shortly and discuss the answers briefly. Okay, I think we can go ahead and close the poll here and just check the results. All right, awesome. I think that we have a pretty good understanding that FGMC is a human rights violation and child abuse. Just for those of you, we do know that FGMC is illegal in Commonwealth of Virginia. If you weren't aware of that, that's okay. That's why we're here. And luckily, we have Angela here who played a very pivotal role in advocating for the current FGMC laws in Virginia. So we can go and close that poll. And now, before I introduce our first speaker, I would just like to add, if you have any questions as we go through, we ask that you post them in the Q&A box towards the bottom of your screen. We have set aside time at the end to talk through the questions y'all have. We will now hear from our first opening speaker, who will remark and briefly introduce Global Women Peace Foundation, the work they do, and the work they've engaged with throughout the years. Angela Peabody has a long career as a humanitarian, is an accomplished award-winning writer, and a sought-after speaker against FGMC and other gender-based violence globally. She now serves as the executive director of Global Women Peace Foundation. I also have been lucky enough to work alongside Angela as my GW practicum. So with that, Angela, I pass it over to you.
Thank you, Anna, and good afternoon, everyone. Just as Anna said, to share with you our organization's history and the work we do. Global Women Peace Foundation was established in 2010 and is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based right here in Fairfax County in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We were founded on the principles of ending violence against women and girls. Our mission is to empower women and girls through education to help end gender-based violence, especially female genital mutilation and cutting, more commonly known as FGM or FGMC or FGC. We established the first walk to end FGM in 2014 as a way to raise awareness and to educate the public, and it has continued annually. We began Global Women Awards in 2015, which has become a two-day event in October. In 2017, we established a long-standing partnership with George Washington University, which has continued to grow over the years. We launched our sanitary pads campaign in 2018, and today we have shipped thousands of pads to Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia in West Africa. We started the only support group in the Washington, D.C. area exclusively for survivors of female genital mutilation in 2016. And we were pleased to sponsor the first restorative surgery for our support group in 2017. We testified in Richmond for anti-FGM state legislation in Virginia, and we were successful in 2018 to have that law passed. Then we went back to Richmond and testified for education legislation in 2019 to have FGM included in the family life education curriculum for middle and high school students in Virginia. In 2019, we teamed up with George Washington University to testify to congressional staffers on the 1996 original FGM federal law amendment, and we were successful there again. The amended bill, HR 6100, was signed into law on January 5th, 2021. In March 2020, we celebrated our 10th anniversary since we were established. And next month, we will be celebrating 12 years of service to the communities. We also established our Lisa C. Brock Scholarship Fund in August of 2020 to assist girls to remain in school in Liberia instead of undergoing FGM. In 2020, since 2020, we have worked with middle and high school students through our internship program so that the students will learn firsthand the work we do, and they too can someday become advocates, activists, and even teachers. I would like to give a shout out to Chantilly High School in Virginia and Penn Manor High School in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, for sending us students to our internship program. We are pleased to finally complete our teachers training manual. Everyone here today should have received a copy when you registered. We hope you will find it helpful in preparing your lessons. Our service programs consist of two components: rehabilitation and prevention. Our rehabilitation programs include the Wholesome Organic Relief Program and the Survivor Resettlement Program. Our prevention programs include the Kids Reach Shield and the Just for You program. The Kids Reach Shield program is responsible for training law enforcement, school teachers, school nurses, and the community to practice the community to the practice of FGM. And that's what we are doing today. It's part of that Kids Reach Shield program. Lastly, we are proud to partner with George Washington University, the Inter-African Committee, the Rotary Club of McLean in Virginia, the Northern Virginia Business and Professional Women's Club, the F.A. Cole Foundation, and Simply Giraffe. Those are our standing partners to date. Thank you for your time, and please enjoy the webinar.
Thank you so much for that, Angela. So moving right along, I will now open the floor to F.A. Cole, who sits on the board for Global Women Peace Foundation. She is originally from Freetown, Sierra Leone, and as a survivor, she works to put a face to FGMC by sharing her story. We're very thankful to have you here today with us. F.A., whenever you're ready, you may go ahead.
Hello, I'm ready. Thanks for having me. Hello again, my name is F.A. Cole, Francis Anne Marie, but I go by F.A. Cole. I'm originally from Sierra Leone, West Africa. And I'm not just a survivor of FGM. I wear many hats when it comes to FGM. I've been involved with testifying on behalf of bills to criminalize FGM in 2 states, Maine and Pennsylvania. We didn't succeed in Maine. And I've worked with other legislators, and I mentor survivors. That's what they say. That's their word, survivors. And what else? I am also an advocate, and I share my story not because it's enjoyable, but it's because it helps to spread awareness about the practice of female genital mutilation. I am one person who would never refer to FGM as female genital cutting because I was not cut. My vagina was massacred, my clitoris and my labia minora were mutilated. So that's just me. I don't think I'll ever sugarcoat what was done. But I'm from Sierra Leone, and one thing I want to mention before I continue is that there's this misconception about FGM, female genital mutilation. Whenever we say FGM, most people think it's a Muslim thing. And FGM is not a religious practice. It's a control practice. It's a harmful cultural or traditional practice. The reason why I say it's not religious practice, it's because I was born and raised Catholic, and I still was not spared. No thanks to my father and my stepmom. My mom, the country we're from, Sierra Leone, Freetown, Sierra Leone, not every girl goes through FGM. If you're from the Creole tribe, they do not practice that rubbish. And my mom, lucky for her, she's Creole, so she did not undergo FGM. But because she and Papa had separated, we were left at the mercy of our stepmom, who decided, and that's the thing, I came to understand that the stepmother should not have touched us, should not have had us go through FGM, but that's another topic. So we went through it under the impression that we were going somewhere to be made into women. That's what they told us. And I was 11. I usually forget. This was 37 years ago. I was 11 years of age, and my older sister was 13. So they just told us that we're going to this place to be made into women. And I hadn't even had my period yet. I was still a child. So how were they going to prepare me for womanhood? I had no idea. But I think my sister told me that we pleaded for them not to take us because it's not a secret what happens in that secret society, in those secret bushes, but we did not. What my attention was on was coming back and getting lots of presents, because that's what they also use to trick the girls into going into these bushes. So depending on the country you're from, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, it's done in a secluded area where there it's not done in a residential neighborhood. And in parts of Asia, it's done in a hospital setting. All right, so for us, we were taken there, and it was the most excruciating, horrific thing that has ever happened to me. And as a survivor of rape and child sexual molestation, I can tell you that FGM cannot be compared to rape. So am I minimizing rape? No, I'm a survivor of it. But FGM, I would never forget the day. I would never forget the date. I would never forget the year. It happened August 1st, 1984. Like I said, I was 11 years of age. But one thing, once you undergo female genital mutilation, you come out. It's not just about, there's so many aspects of FGM that even most advocates do not talk about. First of all, we all focus on the psychological aspect and the physical or sexual aspect of female genital mutilation, how it affects survivors. Some people call themselves victims. I call myself a survivor. I'm not a victim. I survived it. The victims are the ones who are not here today, who died. And a few weeks ago, a 21-year-old from Sierra Leone, I don't know, maybe it was peer pressure, because she was from a village in Sierra Leone. She hemorrhaged to death while undergoing FGM just a few weeks ago, and she was 21. So she's a victim. She's not here to tell her story. So when we come out psychologically, for most of us, depending on how old you are when you go through it, it just destroys you until you go through. And we don't even know that it's the way it's affected us until we start to see a pattern in our lives or we talk to other survivors, and then we realize, oh, so this is what's going on. Or when we talk to, if we are privileged to have a counselor, like I was, to go through counseling. So you put two and two together, and people talk about the sexual aspect of it. I listened to somebody who said that, there's no way for her to talk about the sexual aspect of FGM, because before she was a virgin when she underwent FGM, which is true. You can't really compare. But for me now, mine is different because I have had restorative surgery. And even before that, there's pain. It's always painful. Yes, sex is pleasurable at times, but the initial stage penetration, always painful. And so those are some of the things those are some of the long-term effects of FGM. I don't know if anybody's interested in really hearing the graphic details about my story. But just so you have an idea, maybe you may have seen some documentaries that are out there. But, so when we got there that night, it was night. These women have been drinking. So when I'm just going to talk briefly about mine. So what they did was, we were naked because they instructed us to take off our clothes. And so they blindfolded me and they tied my hands behind my back. And they led me to what I call the bed of death. And so the cutter, because they had amputated my sister's clitoris because she's the oldest, she went first. So the person who did the cutting, the amputation, they put me on the floor and she sat on top of me. I was 11 years of age. And so she sat on top of me, and as she began to fondle, and that's another thing. FGM is also a form of sexual assault on girls, because I did not give you the go-ahead to touch me in any way, shape, or form. But coming from that cultural setting, that country, you do what you're told to do as a child. The adults are always right. The adults always have the last say. So, and because you're a child, you don't want to be homeless, because maybe if you don't do what your parents tell you to do, they'll ask you to leave. So as she began to fondle me, looking for my clitoris, she was also drunk. And the reason why I said that, because the way she amputated my clitoris, she just massacred it. And so the shock, because that's not something I was expecting. Nobody told us that part. They just told us that we're going somewhere to be made into women. And so she's sitting on my chest, as heavy as she was. They blindfolded me and my hands tied behind my back, because with my hands tied, I couldn't really push her off me. And so they knew what they were doing. And so I fought, but I couldn't. The only thing I could do was pull myself and bite her. Like, I beat her bum. That's when I realized that she was naked. And so I was gagged, and then she continued to amputate my clitoris. Not only that, she removed the hood, she removed my clitoris, and she removed my labia minora. But I did not know that my labia minora were also removed. I thought that because she was so drunk out of her mind, that when she was amputating the clitoris, she was so drunk, she didn't know what she was doing. So she just cut it in half, and there were bits hanging. As I grew older, I realized that there was something hanging there. So even when I wrote my book, I called it Type F for favor. And it was in 2017 when I had restorative surgery, thanks to Global Women Peace Foundation, that my doctor, Dr. Bowers, told me that, she said, I've got bad news for you. It's not, it wasn't type 1 that was done to you, it was type 2. And what you see hanging is your labia minora. The way they cut it, she said, I can't understand how this happened. And then I told her that the woman was drunk. So she amputated my clitoris. The pain, oh, that pain, I will never forget that pain. Again, I was 11. I just want you to keep, maybe some of you have got daughters. Just picture an 11-year-old that has to go through that. And nobody prepared me for that. And even if they had prepared me for that, you cannot, the pain was just unbearable. And so we went back home after being there for a few weeks, and nobody said anything to us. And the bad part of it all was they didn't even teach us anything about womanhood. And they told us if we talked about it, anybody will die. I was rebellious. So the first thing I did was talk to somebody when I went back to school, a friend of mine. I told her exactly what happened, and I went home waiting to see if my stomach will swell and I'll die, but that didn't happen. And that's when it hit me that, this is all a lie. They brainwash you. And the other part of it, my father actually paid. He paid them a large sum of money to have this done to my sister and me. And my sister later told me that Papa regretted it when he realized what he allowed his wife to force him to have done to us. But then it was too late, because you can't go back and turn the hands of time. So growing up, I was psychologically damaged, and I kept planning and plotting every opportunity I had. I'll just sit there and think about everybody, starting with my father, who allowed this to happen to me. I just plotted. I just wished death, the most horrific type of death, was what I wished on everybody. That's how damaged I was. And that's why when I meet survivors who were still scared to talk about what happened to them, because they still believe that they will die if they talk about it. I've been talking about it since I was 11. I am 48, will soon be 49. I haven't died. Nothing's going to happen to you. And so, it's that. And then the intimacy part, you're never the same, depending on the type that was done. Now, there are survivors who they said that all they had done to them was a nick. Well, good for you. And so some of them are the people who actually refer to FGM as FGC, because they said it's a nick, nothing was amputated. And I understand, I get it. But for me, it's my vagina was mutilated. And I became so insecure, because compared to other women who did not go through that. And that's what I want to also share with us today. As school administrators, maybe you might come in contact with girls who may be at risk, or girls who've already gone through FGM. There are language that we should use when we talk with these girls, not to make them feel any less of a human being, because they shatter our dreams. They snatch our childhood from us, and it can never be restored. Not a man of restorative surgery can restore my childhood that was snatched from me. The surgery I did, thanks be to God, sexual intimacy is a lot less painful, and I feel secure now as a woman, because the appearance of my vagina that was altered, Dr. Bowers did a really great work on me, and now the piece that was hanging is not even there anymore. I don't miss it, and it's not there. And so now I feel like, okay, so when I'm talking to a woman like Miss Angela Peabody or Miss Walisha, Dr. Walisha, I feel like a woman compared to them. I am not insecure anymore. And so we just, as school administrators, it would be great if you come in contact with a child who's already gone through FGM in your class, or maybe in your neighborhood, they might be scared to talk to you because they've been brainwashed, especially if you're not of the same nationality. They may not feel comfortable opening to you. But using words like barbaric, I don't use that word, because the mothers who do that to their daughters love their daughters. It's just a tradition that's been practiced for so long. And now it's not even the men that are doing it. It's the women that are doing it. And I remember I spoke to survivor, and she said something really profound. She said the mothers or the grandmothers who are doing it to their daughters now, 21st century, or their granddaughters, are doing it out of revenge. Because the question I ask moms is, do you enjoy sexual intimacy? They say no. Do you enjoy sex? No. But don't you think it's because you went through FGM? I'm not talking about having an orgasm. There are women who didn't go through FGM, who did not have orgasms. That's different. It's just the pain part. And that's not how God intended sex to be between a woman and a man, or whomever you decide to be intimate with. And so they'll actually sit there, but they're still in denial. So, well, I did it because my grandmother did it to me and she loved me. Yes, fine. But do you enjoy being intimate with your husband? No. And that's when some of these countries where it's practiced, some of these women don't mind their husbands having multiple wives, because the more wives the man has, is the less bother they bother them. And so when this woman said that most of the moms or the grandmothers who do still have their daughters or granddaughters go through FGM, it's out of revenge, I actually believe it, because if I do not enjoy sex, why should you? And if everything I've heard about sex, if that's really how it's supposed to be, but I don't have that pleasure, then hey, my mother did it to me, so I'm going to do it to you. But that's where I come in. This is where it should stop with you. Just because you're suffering doesn't mean that your child has to. You give them a better life. And so using words like, oh, maybe your parents didn't love you, they will not believe that. They love you, but they just having you go through FGM was just a really sick way of showing you that they love you. And I just want to let us know that there is hope. You can always share with the survivor that there is hope, there's restorative surgery. And today, another survivor who sees me as a mentor, she watched all my videos. She actually had her surgery done last week by Dr. Bowers, and she says she is so happy. And the reason why most of us do the surgery is not for sex. It's to help us with our insecurities. So because the moment we have the surgery, we feel like, oh, I'm complete again, I'm whole again. So she says she's doing really fine. And what we need to be treated like other women, other girls. We need for someone to, our communities, the people with whom we interact, we just need them to understand our pain. I don't need anybody who hasn't undergone FGM to feel my pain, because that would really be unrealistic for me to tell you, a non-FGM survivor, to feel my pain. I can't even tell another FGM survivor that. But we just need our communities, the people with whom we interact, to understand our pain. We need to be motivated, you know. We need to be encouraged that, yes, that happened to you, but that is not who you are. What happened to you may be, for me, I always say what happened to me is part of who I am, because if it hadn't happened to me, I would not have had this wonderful opportunity to share with you today. And we also want to be accepted. Accept who we are. Don't, ostracize us. Don't judge us. Those are things we don't need to be judged. We do not need sympathy. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I need empathy. I need you to understand, but I don't need you to feel sorry for me. I don't need to be judged. Like I remember somebody saying to me, well, all of you are monkeys. Now, this was a white woman saying this to me on social I've heard it all, social media, calling me a monkey, that we monkeys do that to each other. And I felt so hurt. I saw that as a teaching moment for her, but I realized that no matter what I said, she would not hear it, because her mind has been made up that every Black person is a monkey anyway. So, but that's what she says. So we do not want to be judged. And the other thing we don't need is we have a lot of advocates, and some of them, Black, white, brown, some of them have this savior mentality. I run away from such people. We did not need that. You can't save me from something that has already happened. And if you say you're an advocate, advocate for the right reasons, not for selfish reasons. So also to know what language to use when chatting with an FGM survivor, especially if it's a child in your class or maybe in your neighborhood. You never know. Looking at me, you may never know. You can never tell that I've undergone FGM until I open my mouth to talk about it. So you can't really tell. The scars are not visible in our face. It's when we take our clothes off and when we spread our legs, that's where you see the scars. So just help us if you can. If you can't, direct them to where to get help and help us understand that we are whole and complete. No matter what had happened to us, we're still created in the image and likeness of God, and there is help. That they should not deal with it alone. They should not suffer in silence, because FGM is something, like I said, it happened to me 37 years ago. And today, because I really didn't go deeply into it because we have other speakers, I didn't cry, I didn't have a panic attack. But now when I feel my panic attack coming on, because of the trauma, my psychologist helped me, my counselor helped me. So just close my eyes and picture myself, another FA, in a really happy place. So that way, even though I'm sharing my story, I'm talking about the gruesome thing that happened to me, I can control the tears by just seeing myself in a happy place. So I'll stop here for now, and maybe you can have questions for me later. Thank you.
Thank you again so much, FA, for being here with us today and your continued work advocating against FGM and your support for other survivors. So at this time, we're going to take a brief break again from our speakers to engage you guys a little bit more with a few more questions for our next poll. That should be coming up shortly that you guys can see. Great. So if you could just take a minute or so to answer those two questions, and we will close it out shortly and share the results. Okay, maybe just a few more seconds there. If you haven't already, you can answer those. And then, okay, we can go ahead and close the poll. And then can we have the answers up? Perfect. Thank you guys. Okay, so just to go through these quickly. So the most common age range for FGM is actually infancy to 12. FA did speak of certain people that had it later in life, but we do see that the most common is up to in adolescence, infancy to adolescence. And then, yes, North Virginia is within the top 4 states for girls at risk of FGM. Okay, thank you for participating in that. And of course, last but not least, we have Dr. Willisha Gill to speak with us. Dr. Gill is a native Virginian and a retired middle school principal and high school assistant principal and adjunct professor. Since retiring from education, Dr. Gill has worked passionately to support community service initiatives and has authored a series of articles on teenage sex trafficking as well. Today, she will be talking about FGMC in schools and hopefully give you all more knowledge and confidence to identify and help girls at risk.
Good afternoon, everyone. And it is indeed a pleasure to be with you and share information about this heinous practice from the educator's perspective, from teachers' perspective. I began to learn about FGM after hearing a presentation from Angela that was made to our Rotary Club. And so when I heard about it, As a teacher, I thought, I need to do my research. I need to learn as much as I can additionally about this. I will always consider myself a teacher in spite of the many years that I spent as a school administrator. The profession remains near and dear to my heart. I know how hard so many of you work and the continued challenges that you face in your schools. I so respect the work that you do, and I just want you to know that there are those out there who still really get it. We get it, we know, we understand. Teaching is an art, and I know I don't have to tell you all that, but it is an art of developing relationships. John Maxwell said it best, and he said, students don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care about them. And I saw this thing about caring illustrated so well just a few weeks ago. I was watching an old movie. I'm a fan of Sidney Poitier, and you all know that he recently passed on after living a long and full life. But I went back and rewatched his movie, They Call Me Mr. Tibbs. And Mr. Tibbs, Sidney's character, as many of you will know, had no teaching experience, but he took a job in East London, a very poor and tough neighborhood. He was an engineer by trade, but because he couldn't get a job in that field, he defaulted to teaching. And yet, after many false starts, I think he quickly came to realize that he had to show his students how much he cared about them and their lives before he could begin to teach them and connect with them. So again, I come back to relationships, creating an atmosphere of safety, creating a trusting environment, creating a caring environment, making yourself available and approachable. And when you can create those kinds of situations, then you have a pretty good chance of having students open up to you and share with you about their problems and the challenges and the horrors that they may be facing in their lives. So one of the things that I thought would be interesting to do is to share with you information about where some of your students may be coming from, where FGM is commonly practiced. So I'm going to pull up here a table, I guess, that shows countries of origin. And these are the top 10 countries of origin, with Egypt leading the way, Ethiopia coming in second, Somalia third, and you can see Nigeria's fourth, Liberia 5, Sierra Leone, and so on down the line. So I share that with you because I think it will be critically important that you know something about where your students are coming from, those countries of origin. The other thing that I thought is important to share with you, I want to share information with you regarding the DMV. Exactly, where do we stand in regards to the practice or people in our community who are coming from these countries of origin and where women and girls are at risk of FGMC? You heard earlier in the poll that Northern Virginia kind of leads the pack in this area. And you'll also quickly see that, yes, this area is second to New York, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, but that the Washington, Alexandria, Arlington, DC area has about 51,000 young women and girls who may be in danger of FGM. So if you've got children in your classes from some of these countries of origin that I just shared with you, then there's a very likely chance that there's a girl who is at risk of FGM. You heard about the laws, Angela, as well as FA, have worked so very, very hard to make sure that there are laws in place to protect our young girls and women. And it is a felony in Virginia. It is also abuse. And the Code of Virginia requires teachers or other employees at public or private schools, kindergarten, nursery schools, that you're required to report abuse. And so those are the legal precedents or the legal things that are in place to help us then fight this horrible practice. But the other thing that is important is your student. So how do you begin a conversation if you think perhaps that a student might be in danger? And one of the things that I think is real critical here is the friends. Sometimes the friends can be critically important in bringing you information or sharing information with you about their friend. But there are some things that you can do that shows empathy and that shows concern. You might begin a conversation if you are at all suspicious. Are you worried about something? Would you like to talk about it with me? What are you planning for the summer? Are you planning something that's fun? Some other things that you may want to listen for or be attentive to that signals that a girl may be at risk. You may hear a student from a country of origin refer to the thing, the secret, or the surprise. Or you may hear the student unknowingly talking about preparing to go home for a special coming of age ceremony. These are, I think, some clues, some indicators that might alert you that this child is in danger. And so what are some things that you do as a school community? And I am going to share 4 action items that I suggest you consider. First of all, your being here this afternoon, educating and spreading awareness is so critically important. Go back and share the information that you've learned with your staff members, with other teachers. Share with your school PTA. Share. It's critically important that the information is available and known because there's so many people who don't know or who don't have a clue or who don't understand that this practice is in fact happening. You also will want to consider maybe creating a partnership, securing support, or knowing where to turn. For example, if someone is suspicious that a child is in danger, then you must report and get school services involved. But again, there are other places. Your school nurse, the School Nurses Association, the National School Nurses Association has worked very closely. And in fact, I think Angela has done some work with that group on FGM. And then of course, there is us, Global Women Peace Foundation. And I strongly suggest that you visit our website and that you look at the resources that we have available to you. At the end of my presentation, I am going to show you a list of resources that you might find useful as you're taking information back to your schools. The other organization that I want to mention is the Milken Institute School of Public Health at GW. Make sure that you be in touch with them or contact them or reach out to them because they've been working very, very closely with us and they also have a lot of information to share. The other thing that is really important as a school community is that you want to assess your at-risk population. You want to know the countries of origin from which some of your immigrant students might be coming. And you also want to look hard at your school's capacity to provide a safe environment that ensures a psychologically and emotionally the psychological and emotional well-being of the girls in your care. And then the other thing that I think is critically important here is to consider creating an FGM response team. Consider having your school nurse, the school social worker, the school counselor, or a teacher from the curriculum area responsible for teaching about FGM. In Virginia schools, FGM is now a part of the family life education. And so one of the health educators should be on your response team. I mentioned Global Woman Peace Foundation as a reference for you. There is an excellent toolkit on our website, and it's called FGMC Toolkit. And this toolkit has specific examples and a specific template, as a matter of fact, that can help you in setting up your response team if you choose to do that. And then I said that I would share some resources for you. And let's see where, yes, here we are. EndFGMnetwork.org is an excellent resource because here again, there is lots of information that you can find. And in the resource list here, I have included the web page so that you can easily go to those sources if you're looking for information. The Population Reference Bureau is just an excellent, excellent place to go because again, you can just get a plethora of information. The other thing that I want to mention is that that manual that each of you received when you got the invitation to attend this webinar is just outstanding. And here again, there's information, there are lesson plans, and there are activities that you may do. Being a teacher, I thought that some of you might want to read additionally, or you might want to provide information for your students whom you are chatting with or trying to develop a relationship with. Desert Flower is one. And again, I have put together this book list and I decided that I would do a quick synopsis so that you would have the information. So you see Desert Flower is an autobiography by a Somali immigrant who is a top fashion model, Waris Diary. And then we have Desert Flower is also a movie. You may wish to see that. Born in the Big Rains, a memoir again of Somali and survival. Bandumo Corn. It's a powerful memoir of life-altering transformation. And then we have one, The Girl with Three Legs, and it's about a 13-year-old who's taunted and isolated on the playground. And when she goes to her mother, hurt and confused, her mother tells her it's time for the gift, and the gift is FGM. Then we also have The Girl in the Wild Fig Tree, How I Fought to Save Myself, My Sisters, and Thousands of Girls Worldwide. Again, a powerful story by Nisi Linget, who changed the mind of elders and reformed the traditions from inside and is working to create a better world. Then we have No Laughter Here, which is Rita Williams Garcia. And this is about two best friends, and one friend goes home for a coming of age ceremony and returns, and the laughter is gone, and the girl slouches at her desk and only answers the teacher's questions in whispers. And her friend Akila is determined to figure out what has happened to Victoria. And then Cut is also a excruciating experience written about a woman, Hebo Wadiri. And she was 6 years old when she was awakened, and this brutal process was performed on her that almost took her life. And then lastly, I'm going to share a video with you about a survivor who perhaps brings a little different perspective. So let's see, where is my... Okay, just bear with me, please, folks.
I was born in 1944 to a loving Midwestern American farm family. We were close to the earth and our animals. When I was 3, my mother became concerned that my face turned red when I touched my clitoris. She brought me to a doctor, and the doctor cut me. My mother said, "Don't ever talk about this." I was alone with my questions as a child, teenager, and young adult. I did not discuss nerve damage discomfort, even with my sisters. When I gave birth to my first child, I did not talk about the complications I faced. I wanted a natural labor, but the doctor didn't know what to do. He put me under to perform an extensive episiotomy. I awoke 4 hours after my daughter was born, and it took my body months to heal. I told a couple from my church about what had happened to me as a child. They said, "Don't ever tell that story again." Later, I shared with women at work who said, "Don't repeat that or you'll ruin your career." But is this really my shame? What about other women having their babies with doctors who don't know what to do? I could not stay silent, and I started reaching out to new people. My Somali friend Filsan Ali and I produced a bilingual brochure for infibulated Somali women to give to their doctors to make safe labor and delivery plans. I went public internationally, and my close friends and family supported me. Creating art and connecting with nature has helped me heal. I've learned to spin wool and weave on a loom. I have found peace in flower gardens, weeding, deadheading, and making bouquets. Today I live where eagles soar and deer feed by a river. I hope my story will help people be aware that girls have been cut in cultures throughout the world.
I hope this has been useful and beneficial to you, and I will now stop here and return the floor to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gill. As I mentioned, there are a few of the resources that Dr. Gill mentioned in the chat, as well for what she shared on her screen. This will be recorded and sent out to everyone so you can get that information as well. So now we can open the floor to questions, and we'd love to have a conversation with you all. It doesn't look like anyone added anything to the Q&A yet, but please feel free to add any there or in the chat. And when you have these panelists here, we'd love to answer your questions.
My apologies for that. I hope I was able to take care of that. So,
Angela, is there anything you'd like to add while we're waiting for questions to come in?
Well, I just hope people would ask us questions. We're here at FA. Dr. Gill and I are here to answer any of your questions, or if you're curious about anything that any of us said during our presentation or our remarks. I will take this time then to thank everybody who took the time out of your busy Thursday afternoon schedule. And I know teachers, you're busy at a time like this, maybe grading papers or whatever, but we appreciate you taking the time to come and join us this afternoon. So please put any questions you have for FA or for Dr. Gill or for me, feel free to put it either in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and Anna, your moderator, is going to take care of it and direct the questions to us. Thanks again for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate your presence, and we are recording this, so everyone who registered will receive the recording. I'll turn it back over to you, Anna.
Yes, we do have a question that came in. So Anne asks, I am joining you from Atlanta. We're beginning to work in this area. Do you happen to know if there are any organizations in Georgia similar to Global Women Peace Foundation?
I will answer that. I don't know of any that I can just offhand tell you in Georgia that is like us. I know several organizations that do similar work that we do, but I don't know of any that are located in Georgia. And I have a sister that lives in Georgia, and if there were any, she would have told me about it.
This is FA. I just want to volunteer myself. If you're in the DMV, like Virginia, school administrators, and maybe you would want a survivor to come talk to your class, just reach out.
Thank you, FA.
Yes, even if we know that we've provided a lot of resources for you, and you have the Kids Reach Shield Teachers Training Manual with you in your possession. But if you ever have any questions about what is in the manual that you don't understand, please feel free to contact us. Also, like FA said, if you need, when everything goes back to in-person, if you need any of us to come and speak to your students, we will be happy to do so. We still have a little under half an hour to go, so. Well, if there are no questions or comments, I saw a comment in the chat box. Thank you, Anne. If there are no comments or questions, please, we will close out. And I want to take this time to thank our dynamic panelists, F.A., my daughter, whom I refer to as one of my many daughters, and Dr. Walisha Gill, who really shared her expertise as a former teacher and former principal, school principal with you. So thank you. Thank our moderator, Anna. Anna and I have worked many weeks together on putting this webinar together. And I told her yesterday in our last meeting that I will sleep very well tonight, knowing that the webinar is done and it's behind us. And so thank you, Anna, for being my sidekick all these weeks. And thanks again to Effie and to Dr. Walisha Gill. Thanks to everyone who attended, and for sharing your comments in the chat box. Jesu and Ariel, thank you, and Anne, thank you all. And we will close out now. I'll turn it back over to you, Anna.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you again, everyone, for coming and listening. I think Angela said it all. There were a few more resources added in the chat for those that are in the Georgia area, if you'd like to see those. Otherwise, we appreciate you all coming out, and we will let you go back to your day with a little extra time for you all. And thank you again for coming.